You know, for the past, I don't know how many, 10, 12, 14, 15 years, you know, there's just been a lot of political stuff to talk about. And we might shy away from the political, but we're not going to shy away from the controversial. Sha'Carri Richardson, the track star, that young girl with the orange hair and the long fingernails and fast. I saw her for the first time about a week ago. I was really impressed. She's a number one fan. I'm a number one fan of hers, that's for sure. And a lot of folks, there are many folks that are hating on her. I haven't seen too many people hating on her, although I was in a discussion where someone had called her like ghetto or something like that. But you know, I was quick jumping to her defense. Look, nobody chooses where they're born. You didn't. I didn't. So it is quite arrogant to label anyone based on the environment in which they were raised, because we didn't choose our own, okay? But by the grace of God, or however you want to, by the grace of my parents, you know, or however you want to frame it, it wasn't your choice and it wasn't my choice. And so we're born in diverse situations and environments, but the telltale sign, you know, of an individual's worth or merit is what they did in that environment. And for this young lady at such a young age to be going to the Olympics in Tokyo, I mean, the Olympics, I mean, there's the Jesse Owens, you know, and the Olga Korbut, the Nadia Comaneci, the Michael Phelps, you know. This is the Olympics. Cassius Clay, you know. These are the Olympics. And this young girl is on her way there as one of the fastest women runners in the world. Okay? So, I mean, I don't know how you could hate on her like that. Besides that, I think, especially as black folks, you know, we need to begin to recognize that, you know, we sort of embrace the term that it takes a village, and especially the old brothers and sisters talk about how when they were in neighborhoods, when they were younger, it did something, anybody could snatch him up and whoop him. Not me, growing up. I know my mama wouldn't handle it, gonna have any of that. But anyway, we talk that talk. But then we turn on this young girl because she doesn't respond, she doesn't look, she doesn't sound, she doesn't act the way we think, she doesn't act like us. Okay? We, as black people, in this nation and in this world, are a diverse people. We don't all think the same, we don't all look the same, we don't worship the same, our cultures are different. But we are one. The Pan-African view. We are one. I mean, the world sees us as one, in a sense. The rest of the world, we are that. And so from my perspective, this young girl, she's about 19, 20 years old. You know, I'm her daddy. I'm old enough. I got 2 kids older than her. For you, she might be your sister. Some might be your mama. I don't know. But the point is, you know, we have to embrace each other. And we have to encourage each other. And man, I'm thrilled to death to see Simone Biles. You know, she's something else. Allison Felix, she's on her way back. I love to see our folks. And there's a couple black swimmers. You know, my daughter was telling me. You know, I haven't really been following it all that closely. It's wonderful. We need to support them no matter what. I remember when Gabby Douglas, was that her name? The little flying squirrel that went to the Olympics. And even Simone Biles, you know, early on when she first started, you know, black folks were ragging on their hair, man. We are some hating folks. We are some hating folks, man. I was one, a couple folks, they were ragging on, and I told her the other day, you know, I could stand you or anyone in front of me and give me 1 minute and I can begin naming off all the things that are wrong with you. Don't be that way. And you could do the same to me. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't be that way. Support our folks. We are a people. We are a people within this nation that were displaced not by our own will. All we have are each other. You see how often they're crying Black Lives Matter? Who cares? They don't. Black lives only matter to black people. We need to support ourselves, for real. So I just want to give a shout out to Sha'Carri Richardson because I'm really, really impressed. You know, she's been through a tough time in her life and still she's persevered. She's the perfect example of humanity, of what we have to do as humans, and especially black people in a nation we are so disrespected, so disregarded. You know, I got into a little tiff on YouTube with this gentleman. He was a white guy, and he was talking about, well, she's depressed. And my response to him was, everyone is depressed. And well, how many of you have had that? I mean, it was going back and forth, but the reality is, black people in this nation, we have lived in a state of constant depression, okay? So it was easy for this white guy to think, oh, she's terrible, she's going through this depression. But as black people in this nation, no matter what educational level you're on, no matter how successful you are, there is a piece of you that is disrespected in this nation, and that causes a depression. Now, most of us have dealt with this depression. We have this depression under wraps, you know, and we sort of compartmentalized so we can still function. But deep inside, it's there. Look, during the election, you know, when Barack Obama was running, when Colin Powell, General Colin Powell, Joint Chiefs of Staff, Republican, came out and said, I'm voting for Obama, he knew. Because as great as he was, as successful as he was, as well revered and respected as General Colin Powell was, he was compartmentalizing this little hurt, this little piece of depression that he had carried with him all through his military career. And he said, this man, he's a Democrat, I'm a Republican, but this stuff supersedes politics. This is this depression. This is this thing I've been carrying around with me all my life. Yes, general as I am. But politics aside, this ethnic issue is greater than that, man. Man, a lot of those Republicans were hating Colin Powell for that, but he had to stand up. It was like that religious story where that man came to Jesus at night and says, I know, you know, I'm a teacher of the Jews, but this is something different. That's how Colin Powell was. You know, I know I'm a Republican and a general, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, commander and all this stuff, but I'm a black man and America still hasn't treated us right. And he handled it. I'm just saying there is a reality there. And let's segue that to this critical race theory, which I've been studying over the past couple of weeks. I mentioned a little bit about it in my last program. I just started scratching the surface, and I maybe even said things that maybe weren't quite accurate, you know, because I was still learning. But it's very interesting how the institutions and laws and everything has been set up, the society set up, which was very detrimental, you know, to people of color. But as well as you delve into the critical race theory, it is a lot more than simply black and white. It has to do with every person that might be oppressed, every person that might be ill-treated because of a particular classification that they embrace, and some of them embracing 2 or 3 classifications, intersectionality, I believe it's called. But what's very interesting, and because my daughter, she's 16 years old, and she's like an expert on this stuff, man. She knew about this stuff before I did, and so she was telling me, and we're having a discussion, you know, but as I had to share with her, this is nothing new. I mean, they may have came up with something to call it, but the fact is, and the reality even of the theory itself, is that this is what we've been living through all of our lives. None of this is a shock to black folks. For real. And so then my message, I know there's a big conflict, you know, across the United States, wanting to teach it in schools and getting blowback and all, but I'm like, that's a non-issue to me. Why are we insisting it be taught in schools anyway? Because they ain't trying to change. And so this is just part of they ain't trying to change. And as black folks, we need to quit begging. We need to quit protesting and hoping and all this stuff. Quit begging and protesting on things that we can handle ourselves. Man, I've been schooling my kids on the black-white issue since they were able to comprehend. 5, 6, 7 years old. I've told them about white people. I've told them about black people and the interactions and the issues that we have. Man, I took some flack from my family, my sister and my mother when she was still here when my kids were young. Oh, you shouldn't be telling him or you shouldn't be telling her that stuff. They're going to end up hating white people. No, they won't. But they're not going to be blindsided like I was, okay? So all this protesting and demanding that they teach critical race theory in school, I don't see the reason. I mean, I don't have a problem if they do, but I don't have a problem with if they don't. Because nothing that they would teach your black kids shouldn't already have learned from you, okay? That's all I'm saying. And when I first heard of this critical race theory, I went to audible.com, which I've been a member for like 7, 8, for a bunch of years. Man, I've read 70 or 80 books already with audible.com. I went right there, critical race theory, got a book. Been studying that for like a couple weeks. I took a screenshot of it, sent it to my sister. She goes, oh yeah, I just read that book last week. So there is no reason not to know. Black people, teach your kids. Teach your kids. Come on. We have become a weakened black community from the strength that preceded us. Let's pick up that baton and start doing what it is we're supposed to be doing. You know, we've gotten weakened. And sometimes that weakness kind of sneaks up on us. I was telling some folks, you know, how we were in the 70s. You know, I was in high school in the 70s. I graduated from high school in 1976. And there was a strength in our high school. There was a strength. Now, we were military kids. Basically, the only black kids in our high school were the military kids. Our fathers were stationed here at Wright-Patterson. So we're here going to school. So in my high school, there was like 1,500 whites and a couple hundred blacks. We were the minority, but we were strong. We were unified. We all had fros. Not for a fashion statement. So the majority in that school never uttered the N-word. And they didn't not utter the N-word for political correctness. They knew there would be consequences that they weren't willing to face. And so we had that respect. Now we're out here begging. Please, you know, please. Now stop doing that. There's no incentive. If you're an oppressed nation, the oppressor in that nation has no incentive to do the right thing. Why should they? They're enjoying life. You're the one. Realize that. So as black people, I think we've kind of lost something. I was sharing even with my daughter, you know, the strength and the solidarity that we had among black people with each other. There was never a black person that you'd run into that you didn't respond to, that you did not acknowledge. Man, I was overseas. I was overseas in Japan. I was overseas in Korea. And I'd see black people. If I saw a black man on the other side of the football field as I was walking somewhere on a Sunday morning, I would acknowledge his presence. He would acknowledge mine. And so we have lost that solidarity. We have lost that. And so it's very difficult at this particular time of a weakness that we are suffering through to really totally blame this on white folks. Because we were stronger at one time. We lost it, okay? And I'm thinking, you know, I was considering it the other day because I was looking at a picture of me and some of my friends with our afros and our seriousness about ourselves when we were out in public. And I was thinking about, well, when did it begin to die? When did it begin to dissipate? And this is sort of symbolic, but when the afro was a symbol of black resistance, of black defiance, of black solidarity, the afro. So when black folks started calling the afro the fro, they just took the African out of it and started calling it a fro. Right? It began to dissipate. See, the afro was not a fashion statement. The afro was a social statement that meant something to black people. But then we started getting fancy with our fros. We started getting cute with them. And it no longer was a social statement. It turned into a fashion statement. and the clothes, you know, and the dancing and the singing and all that stuff. And much as, you know, we loved all our little Michael Jacksons and Rick James and Tavares and all these other guys, that's fine. But we began entertaining. And I know there's always been black entertainers, from Fiddler, from Roots and all and everything, but when we go from a movement, from entertaining massa through a movement, and then back to, and that's why they love Michael Jackson, that's why they love Prince, that's why they love Jimi Hendrix. I mean, I liked them too, but they were entertainers, they were harmless, and many of them were effeminate. And I'm not ragging on one's own, you know, demeanor, when one carries themselves, but I'm just saying there are particular characteristics of black men that are not challenging to the oppressor. That's why you don't have too many effeminate black men that are choked out by the police, that are killed by the police, because they're not threatened by that. But you'll take a man like George, and a big man, a strong man, and then you have armed police officers with him in restraints, choking him out, because that is a threat. So long as you're singing, as long as you're entertaining, as long as you're cute, as long as you're wearing a dress, Tyler Perry, then love that stuff, because they're not threatened by it. That's all I'm saying. So this isn't an anti-this or an anti-that. I'm just showing you, when you have an oppressor, what threatens that oppressor. What brings fear into the heart of the oppressor. I came up in the 70s, man. The majority was afraid of the minority back in those days. And that's why today you have to pry their cold dead hands off those guns that have given them guts. They have a bravery that they never had before. They're not letting those guns go. And I've said on many occasions, black people, we need to get armed. Because, you know, I was speaking to a good Christian sister, and I was black sister, and I was saying, you know, we need to get armed as black folks, because I'm a pastor, okay, in a real world here. And she, well, then it'd be like the Old West. There'll just be shootouts. No, there won't. That's what they call a balance of power. That's why Russia, the United States, you know, the nuclear arms and all that. That's because Russia has nukes. We have nukes, and it keeps us in check. Why do you think Russia hasn't dropped nukes on us? Why do you think we haven't dropped nukes on Russia? Because we know they have them too. They know we have them. That keeps us straight. But think about this. Suppose Russia had nukes and we did not have nukes. What do you think the situation would have been? They would have dropped those on us a long time ago, okay? But since they know that we are armed as well, it keeps them in check. And it keeps us in check. It's called the balance of power. That's what we don't have in our communities today. That's why a black jogger could be jogging and white guys roll up on him in a truck and shoot him dead. Because why didn't that black jogger have a gun? Didn't he know? He was down south. He needs to get anywhere. Get armed. Let folks know you're armed. Wear the holster on the outside. I mean, come on, you can. It's legal. Now you might get a little harassment by the police, but so what? Okay, stop. You know, show them. Yeah, I got it. Got my license, even though you don't even need a license. And so be ready to be hassled by the police. Be ready to be stopped. Be ready to prove that you're legit, that you can carry this fine. And then go about your business. Because if you get stopped, if you get rousted by the police, and then they let you go, then everybody that saw that scene realizes that you're armed. Okay? It's better if you get rousted by the police. Everybody gets to observe that situation, and when they let you go because all your ducks are in order, there's a reality that are now in the hearts and minds of other folks who may have been oppressive, that maybe they should tread lightly, okay? Often we acquiesce to believing where we are is where we want to stay, but really it's a fear of going forth and attempting to do something where we feel we might fail. But what I'm sharing with you today is that getting up is half the battle. It's like when I was younger. I remember I was always swimming. I was on a swimming team for a very short time. But I always liked to go into the deep end and jump off the diving board, and even dive off the low dive. But I remember when I was about 10 years old, I thought, I'm going to go off that high dive. I mean, all the other kids were doing it, and they seemed to be having a great time. I'm going to go on that high dive. So I remember I got my courage up, and I stood in line. It was my turn. I anxiously climbed up that ladder, got to the top of the diving board, walked to the edge, looked down, and fear gripped me. It was a long way down. But this is what I knew. I understood the concept of gravity, that if I just stepped off that board, there was no turning back. There was only one way to go. So guess what? I did it. And that was the beginning of a reality, a revelation to me in life. Just step out. Just do it. Man, there were times I've been asked to speak to large groups, 200, 300 people. And immediately I say, yes, I have something to say. And in all honesty, I have nothing to say. But I know that in 2 weeks I'll have something to say. But what I have to do, for me at least, is to commit myself. Now, it's too late now, and I often tell myself, here's another fine mess you've gotten yourself into, because I'll always step up. I'll always step off that high dive. I'll always volunteer. I'll always be the guy. And then I have to produce. That's what I'm sharing with you today. Even though working out the exercise, I'm going to be 63 years old this year. And some people say, wow, well, that doesn't even make sense. You don't look 63. Well, it doesn't just happen. Fortunately for me, I spent 27 plus years as a mailman, and I was walking like 20 miles a day for quite a few years. And I determined that since I had to walk, that was my job every day, I might as well just eat right from the time I got up in the morning until the time I got off of work. And that's like 95% of my life, And then when I got off of work, if I wanted to, I could go down to the pizza place and get a large pizza and eat it by myself because I knew I was going to burn it off the next day. And basically, that's been the story of my life. I mean, I really haven't been the most disciplined person in the world, so I find ways to trick myself into doing the things that I need to do. Some of the foods I eat, some of the vitamins I take, I don't even know what they do, but I know they're good for me. I don't have to know what they do. All I know is they're good for me, and that when I ingest them, the body is going to take care of processing them and take care of what it needs to do. And so I'll just Google, I'll do a little bit of research, not a whole lot of research, just determine what are the best foods or what are the best things that I should be doing for my body, and I'll just do them. And just expect I can take gasoline. They have different grades of gasoline, and they have different grades of motor oil, and there's a particular grade that's the best for your car. So based on my car, I'll get the kind of gas or the kind of motor oil that needs to go in my automobile. Now I don't need to know all the intricacies and all the things that it does, and it interacts with this and interacts with that. I just know that this is the best for my car, and the car is going to take care of itself. And so I just want to encourage you, that we just need to step up. It doesn't matter, and this is where I've always raised my kids. It doesn't matter where you're at right now. It doesn't matter how you got to where you are right now. It doesn't matter all the decisions, all the life choices you may have made may have been terrible. But this is where you are right now. I saw on the Facebook once about not looking in the rearview mirror so much because you can't see where you're going, and I believe that's true. Don't worry about where you've been. I mean, take the experience from what you've been and make sure you don't make the same mistakes again, and make sure you make the right choices again. But don't look back and lament on all the mistakes that you made. As well, don't look back and just revel in all the good things that you did, all the awards and all the wonderful things that you did, because we could find ourselves, getting caught up in this time warp of I don't know if you remember Married with Children with Al Bundy. He was a grown man, but he was always reminiscing about the days he was a high school quarterback. Come on now. Come on. We could spend too much time reminiscing about how wonderful things were and not accomplish anything today. What I'm sharing with you today is a race. Life is like a race. And I don't mean a race for speed, but I mean a race for endurance, a race for longevity. And so it really doesn't matter how you start. I mean, it's better if you start well. It doesn't even matter how you ran the bulk of the race, although it would be better if you ran it well. What matters is how you finish. There are too many of us that don't finish. There are too many of us that have ran a poor race, had a poor start, had all these negatives in life coming against us. So, oh, well, this is my reason for not being successful. No. It should be the catalyst to motivate you to do well so you'll not be defeated by your circumstances. It's all a matter of how you look at a thing. Look at it positively. I mean, we could sit back. There's so many groups in this nation that have suffered, under the hands of oppression and all. And we acquiesce to, oh, well, this is the way my life is. It's not my fault. It's because of what they did to me. No, you're the one. It's your choice. And hopefully you'll use this message as a motivation, the catalyst to get you to stand up and to make that move. Don't settle for less if more is available. Our lives, man, we talk about discipline. I was in the military. I wasn't the most disciplined in the military. I think it's because I was 17 when I went in, and it was the 70s. It was a different kind. It was a different time and all. But as far as discipline, what I found, even as I've gotten older, I earned my MBA. When I was 50 years old, I went to college. I had a high school diploma. When I was 60, I graduated with an MBA. Okay, it's about discipline. But it's not discipline in the way we think. Discipline seems so harsh. Discipline seems like you have to have a drill instructor, with that Smokey Bear hat standing in your face, guy, what's wrong with you, clown? Yelling at you and screaming at you. That kind of discipline. That's a discipline as well. And I appreciate, that boot camp, in my early life and all. But the kind of discipline I'm talking about is just the determination that you're going to do what might be uncomfortable because you recognize the goal is desirable. And the alternative is not. And so what I'm going to tell you about discipline is discipline isn't easy. But you must persevere. Make yourself persevere. Insist yourself to persevere. Because in time, it will no longer be discipline. It will simply be a natural part of your function. And it will be enjoyable. And you will enjoy the fact that you made it. And you can be an encouragement for others because we have to realize that we have to step up. Our bodies we are made to be a certain way. Maslow said that the most basic trait of a human being is survival. And after that, all these other things that we do. We were made to survive and to survive well, to survive in good health. There are too many of us, especially as ethnic people in this nation, that feel, high cholesterol and high blood pressure and heart, all these things are simply, a part of being black or something. But what I want to share with you, it's not. No, the fact is your diet is the same as your mama's diet. Your diet is the same as your grandmama's diet. So they had high blood pressure because of the foods they ate. You have high blood pressure because of the foods you eat. So what do? Take high blood pressure medicine for the rest of your life? No, change the foods that you eat. Man, look, I'm planning on living to 130. I tell my daughter that all the time. She thinks I'm joking, But what I'm suggesting is we could live a lot longer lives. And longevity isn't a pleasure. I don't believe longevity is a pleasure if you're not in good health. And so what I'm suggesting is just to do the best that you can. Eat right, eat better. And see, it's not about, I think one of the problems we have in our community a lot of times, and this is all communities really, as far as a diet plan, well, I'm going to go on a diet until I hit a certain weight. I'm going to go on a diet for maybe 3 months or 2 months or whatever. I'm going to go on this type diet or whatever. No, those are destined for failure. Because psychologically, you just can't wait to hit that finish line just so you can go get that whatever it is you want to eat again. And so either you're not going to make it, or you're going to be miserable, or you're going to be motivated, but as soon as you get to that finish line, you're going to revert right back to this that got you in the position you were in when you decided to diet. What I'm telling you today is, what I'm suggesting is that we simply need to change our diet. Not temporarily, embrace another diet for a given amount of time, but change our diet, man. What I did was I went to the internet and I just Googled the foods that are good for me. And see, I'm a finicky eater. I don't like a whole lot of stuff. So I Googled the foods that are good for me and printed a list, and then I just went through and marked out everything that I didn't like. And what was left, that became my diet. Okay? And it works, because there's a lot of things that, now prunes, I did have to kind of acquire a taste for that, but if they're cold, they're really not too bad, okay? So I'm just suggesting that we just need to do better. Now, some of you know last year I gave a 76-day challenge. I think it was in August, and it was to culminate on Veterans Day, okay? As far as finding an exercise of your choice, whatever your choice is, and not too difficult because we want to keep it going, and just do it for the 76 days, okay? I don't know if I was the only one that actually did that, but as well. Now, just recently, about 6 days ago, I put out a 150-day challenge, which will culminate on Veterans Day. And with whatever the exercise of your choice, just do something for you. See, my age, I need cardio. So I have like a 40-minute I used to be a martial artist. I guess I still am. I just don't fight. But so I have a martial art cardio that lasts for about 40 minutes. And it utilizes every punch and every kick that you can imagine. But after 40 minutes, I mean, you're like drenched. And it's good for my cardio. And this is where I do push-ups, okay? But that's for me. Whatever it is you need, whatever it is you desire, whatever it is you like. You know, some people, like my wife, she does one of those Peloton bikes, you know. I can't do that. I can't just sit stationary and just be running, doing that. But for her, it's great. So whatever it is you like to do, if you want to ride an actual bicycle, that's great too. Or if you just want to walk the neighborhood, that's fine. Just do whatever it is that you like to do, but it's the consistency that is the key to making something that seems to take discipline now, but will make it a natural part of your life, and that's what you need. That's what I need. That's what we all need. If I might leave you with these inspirational words, don't identify yourself with your need. Identify yourself with your vision. Now, I was speaking to a white guy today, really a nice white guy. Voted for Biden. He made sure to let me know, and that was cool. He's cool, trying to do his best. But the one thing he was worried about was, was people on welfare getting more money, and too much socialism. Like, come on, man. Oh, jeez. Politicians depend on their constituency not being too smart. Look, man, I joined the military in 1976, right after high school, 17 years old. And since then, throughout my life, and I've been unemployed maybe 5 months since I was 17. 5 months total. I'll be 63 this year. And so I've seen Republican administrations. I've seen Democrat administrations back and forth. I even voted for Reagan once. Okay. Shh, don't tell anybody, right? The point is, this country is going to stand. Even that mess we had recently when the other president left office recently, and there was an insurrection at the Capitol, as crazy as an embarrassment in front of the world that it was, it still got handled, okay? And as a matter of fact, to date this program, today the first one of those, I guess, Proud Boys pled guilty. And I'm sure he's getting ready to cooperate, okay? We're going to find some stuff out. Probably some congressmen and some of their aides are going to jail or going to prison. But anyway, our nation has a way of even snuffing out those type things, sort of like a disease, sort of like a virus. You might come down with the sniffles, but your body's strong enough to fight it off. In a couple weeks, you're okay. And so our nation, we don't have to worry about becoming a socialist or a communist nation. We don't have to worry about anything like that. We have a system of checks and balances. Even when you have nuts that are our representatives, our system is so strong that it still works out, okay? And so there's just nothing to worry about. And I was telling the white guy, don't worry. It's good about my tax dollars. I'm like, your tax dollars are going to go somewhere anyway. Quit worrying about it. Before we had the internet, before we had I was there, many of us were there, before we had worldwide media and social media and all this stuff, we just didn't really know what was going on in Washington, D.C. Not really. Unless you really, really did research. But so we were less tripping because we just didn't know any better. But now with the left and the right, news people going out getting information to share with their particular viewership, we probably know a lot more than we needed to know. I think maybe there shouldn't have been an educational level that determines what kind of information you can get about our government or politics. Because if you're just too dumb to process it properly, we're going to be a socialist nation. Come on now. That's not going to happen. Don't worry about that. I think what we should worry about are those journalists and those news stations that are feeding us their propaganda for their political purpose. Look, those news broadcasts, those companies, those are businesses, and they're making money off of having their viewership. They're fighting for viewership, and they're going to say and do anything they need to do to build up their customer base, just like a store will, just like a mattress salesman or a car salesman. Same with these news guys. So they pick a particular demographic that they know are really, really going to be watching their program, and they just feed them red meat, tell them everything that they want to hear. And so you got this big viewership of 1 million people watching your news broadcast simply because you're feeding them that red meat. And then you go to your sponsors and say, look how many people are watching this program that you can advertise to. You just pay me $1 million a year, we'll put your advertisements on our show. That's the way it works. Simply. There's nothing to worry about except those purveyors of so-called news that is piped into our households, every single night of the week. This country will continue. This country will maintain. It will go on. And when you consider the age of our nation, as compared to many other nations on this planet, in Europe and in Africa, in Asia and all, our nation is a relatively young nation compared to some of those. So we're like in our adolescence. We're still making mistakes, okay? But we're going to get there. So in the meantime, don't worry. Just take advantage of every situation you can and better yourself. Education-wise, as many of you know, of course, man, when Obama became president, we found out on my 50th birthday, November 11th, 2008. Man, I was 50 that night when I found out. What a birthday present. I went to Sinclair College when he took office and said, I want to go to college to get a degree. 10 years later, I got my associate degree through Sinclair, and then I went on and earned my bachelor's degree and my MBA within 10 years. Just do something. Do something you haven't done before. Better yourself physically, emotionally, spiritually, financially, educationally, relationally, in every possible way. Just get yourself better, okay? Don't worry about stuff. Just take advantage. Time is there. Time is there. I was talking to a guy just today, as a matter of fact. Where I work, most of us are veterans. I was in the Air Force. This guy was a Marine in Beirut, during when all that stuff was going down. And he said, Jarvis, you look a little different. What are you doing? I'm working out. This is the first time anybody ever asked me, but I am working out pretty diligently. I mean, I've been working out for years, some cardio, but I started adding push-ups, to my repertoire. And he said, man, so I started telling him what I was doing. He said, man, I used to do push-ups all the time. Now I can probably maybe just do 3 or 4. I said, well, just do 3 or 4 for 2 weeks. And at the end of 2 weeks, add 5 to it. Do that for 2 weeks. At the end of those 2 weeks, add 5 more. That's how I started. Man, I started back in February. Man, I could barely push off 10 push-ups. So I did it for 2 weeks and then added 5. 2 weeks, add 5. Got like 110. And I pulled something in my gut. So you got to do wisdom now. I did kind of overboard. So what I did was, some of y'all know I put a 150-day challenge out there. Well, really, a challenge from now, whatever today is, to November 11th, Veterans Day. And just to do the exercise of your choice and be consistent. And so what I did was, now instead of adding 5 in every 2 weeks, I just stopped at 50 push-ups. And so for 150 days, I'm going to do my 50 push-ups every morning before I do my cardio. And so when November 11th gets here, I think I'll have strengthened up whatever I did, and I'll go back to my adding 5 thing. Okay, you just got to do it. But anyway, this guy was saying, man, after I was explaining to him, what I've been doing, he says, man, I feel motivated. I think I'm going to start doing that. Man, it made me feel real good, because that's what we all need. In every aspect of life, just better ourselves, whether it's education, whether it's health. Just better yourself, for real. Because guess what? Your children are watching. Your grandchildren are watching. Other children are watching. People are watching. That's what we need to do. Just encourage and motivate ourselves, each other, to be better. Because it truly does take a village. Not just to raise a child, but for a village to be successful and flourishing. It takes everyone in that village to be working together. How's that? But anyway, I do want to thank you once again for joining me and listening. And I want to invite you to listen again. You take care.